a pretty funny story. So I just got done volunteering. I come back home. I'm supposed to be filming this video. My whole family's gone. I'm locked out of the house. So I guess I'm filming this video outside right now. I really hope you can hear me. The lighting probably isn't the best. This is my phone. So we're just making do. This is just happening right now. But anyway, today I'm going to tell you kind of like my experience with the ACT and like the tips and tricks I figured out. And also like I got Dippin' Dots, so I don't have a spoon to eat it with. I was supposed to get one inside, but look where we are now. Anyway, ACT tips. I'm gonna tell you everything that I've learned, everything that I've experienced, some of the crazy things that have happened to me, and also I think it's raining out here, so this is just going great. All right, let's do this before I get poured on. So first of all, I want to say don't judge my bun. I literally got up at 6 a.m. this morning. Yeah, I was planning to come home and like do my hair and actually put a real shirt on. But okay, my first tip, I feel like some people know this and some people don't. The first one that I would say is take it at least 4 times if you can. The more that you take it, obviously the better score you're going to get. So there's 4 different sections: English, reading, science, and math. And on each time, one of those sections will be harder. So you're supposed to take it at least 4 times so that that hard section caters to your strength. I'm better at the English part than I am at the math. So I'd want to take it 4 times so that I'd get the one where the reading is the hardest, because that means that I'm probably going to score the highest on that test. If you can only take it once, then that's fine. Just make sure you do a lot of prep before that, because that's going to be your one time that you take it. So that kind of leads me into my next tip, which is take lots of practice tests. So you can find a whole bunch of workbooks like online. You can find like the PDFs too. You don't really have to buy one, I found. You just look up like ACT practice test. There's literally like a whole PDF that's like 800 pages of just practice tests. So even if you take the ACT once and then figure out which sections you need to like work on, then work on those specifically. So that's kind of what I've been doing actually, is just taking a lot of practice tests, trying to figure out which ones I got wrong, and then I work specifically on problems like that so that I don't miss them again. So I'd say kind of like after you take the practice test, make sure you figure out which ones that you missed, and then go back and figure out why you missed them. Okay, obviously you can take the SAT too, and a lot of these will apply to the SAT. I am specifically focusing on the ACT. I took both of them to figure out which one I tested higher on, and I was better at the ACT because the ACT is based in English, whereas the SAT is based more on like math and science. Not really science, I guess more math. So the ACT, how it works is pretty much you get your English, your reading, your science, and your math. So your reading is just like you read a passage and you have to like comprehend it, and then you answer questions about the passage. And then your English is more like grammar, and then your science actually isn't really science, but it's actually just like comprehension and reading charts. So that's pretty much what the science is, and then the math is obviously just math. 3 out of 4 of them are pretty heavily English or reading based. So I would say focus more on your reading, and that will help you overall than focusing just like on the math. All right, my next thing is, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there's a thing called Super Score. Basically, it's where some schools in the US, I don't know if it's outside the US. It's raining. Okay, we're just doing this in the rain now. But anyway, there's this thing called Super Score. They take your highest score from each section over all your tests, and they make that into your final score. So like one test, that would be your composite, but your super score is your highest scores out of all your tests. Try to target the other ones that you need to get a higher super score, because a lot of schools will take super score and it can improve your score so much, like 3 points. My next tip is like really basic. Honestly, you hear this all the time, but I would say that you should like wake up on time. I took the ACT in, I think this was like the February one. This one was a mess, let me tell you. Okay, so I had to take it at a community college because my high school was full. And on the ACT thing, it said it's in the main building. So I was like, okay, I'll just find the main building, right? So I go to the biggest building that's on this campus. Turns out it's not there. So it's like 5 minutes till 8 or whatever I'm supposed to be there. And I like just run into like all these buildings trying to find the right room. And I finally find it, and they're like, you gotta go, you gotta sit down. So I was like running to my seat, and then the proctor guy was like so mad. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And then in the middle of that test, a kid cheated and got kicked out. I don't really know how he cheated, but all I know is the proctor like got up and started kind of like scolding him in the middle of while we were testing, and he had to like get all his stuff and get out. But then also that made it so my ACT scores came like way later because this kid got in trouble and he had like to get reported. So then all of us in the room were also like under watch. So they had to like make sure we didn't cheat or anything like that. So it took like a way longer to get my scores. So that was like the worst ACT experience I've ever had. Oh, I had one. First time I took the SAT actually, a kid's phone kept going off. Like they put it in like a bucket thing. And so the proctor, I don't know if she's like a new proctor or what, but she let him get up in the middle of the test and turn his phone off, which is like totally against the rules. Like 10 minutes later, we're in the next section and it goes off again, except for this time it's just like on vibrate. And so the proctor's like,
go get your phone and turn it off.
So he gets up again a second time to go touch his phone while taking the SAT, and he turns it off, and then he comes and sits back down. 10 minutes later, it goes off again. It's still on vibrate, so we're like, okay. And so the proctor got mad and moved all of our phones out in the middle of the hallway, just like sat them there. But because of that, we like started late. So all these kids were just leaving and they were just like passing by our phones. And I was like, well, great, somebody's gonna like steal all of our phones out there. Honestly, you're probably gonna run into things that will distract you during the ACT. I know that the twins had a kid who was vaping in the back of their ACT test room. You really just have to focus on your test and kind of ignore everything else, because even like being distracted for 1 minute could throw off your scores. Now this is kind of more like reading specific. Reading is by far like my best section, and honestly I feel like it's more how you do it. Like they always say this, how like you annotate is like personal to you, but the way that I found that works best is because you don't have a ton of time. I kind of like read over the questions and kind of like mark in the passage where I need to be looking so that I don't actually have to read the whole passage, and that seems to save like a lot of time. And then I found that you can finish faster and you can go back and look at the ones that you need to like focus on. Other than that, I would just say like read a lot. You don't really have to read boring ACT passages, just like books or anything like that. That can just improve your reading speed, and that helps so much. Really, the ACT, the hardest thing is just your time management. You have so little time. Just like practicing reading before that will help a ton. I actually learned this in one of my English classes. I can't remember which one. The ACT is always looking for the most concise answer. So most of the time, if you're stuck between two, always pick the shorter one. So when it's like, which is the best way to revise this sentence, you would always, if you're stuck between two, pick the shorter one, if it still makes sense, obviously. But for the reading, I found that if you look in the question and it's like asking about something negative, you can mark out like 2 to 3 of the answer choices just because those are positive. You really can get rid of a lot of things just by process of elimination, and then you're more likely to get them correct because you're only picking from 2 instead of 4. And now for the math. So the math is for sure the one section that I need to be working on. I am taking the ACT a little bit early, so I haven't finished Algebra 2. There's not really a ton of it on the ACT, but you can still use that knowledge to help you. Well, in my state test, they've always given us like a formula chart. You don't get that on the ACT. So that was definitely like a shocker when I went in my first time. I was like, oh, you forgot to give me a formula chart. Yeah, there's not one. I would say just look over all your formulas before you go in. Make sure you know them. There's a whole bunch of flashcard websites that I would definitely look through, because knowing like the distance formula, point slope, all the tan, cosine, whatever, all those, you'll need all of that for sure. Practice tests are probably gonna help you the most on math because it's really like the same knowledge, just different questions every time. Now for the science, this one is a little bit weird. I would say your first time taking it, it is going to be strange. It's weird because you almost don't have any idea about what you're reading about. You just have to like almost not even focus about what it's reading about, but more just like what the question is asking. In the charts and the passages, there's a lot of extra information. Focus on specifically what it's asking about and not the rest of it. You won't need 90% of it. I definitely say the science one is the one I struggle the most on, like time management, because I always want to understand everything, but you don't need to. There's always one passage that's like a paired passage, I guess you could say, or something like that. It's like two scientists and they're conflicting like viewpoints where you like compare and contrast what they're saying. That one is typically the longest one because you kind of do have to understand what they're saying. So I would say put that one last because it's typically the hardest, and so you're more likely to get more answers right if you do the easier ones first and then the harder one last. My next tip, actually Asa taught me this one and it worked out really well last time. So the way that I found that bubbling goes the fastest, I used to do it where I just fill out the whole test and then I fill out the whole Scantron, except for one time I got off on one bubble and I like missed like 90 of the questions, like 90% of the questions, because I just bubbled wrong. To avoid doing that on the ACT, because that would really stink if you got like a really high score but then you just bubbled wrong, I would do it page by page. I found this is probably the fastest way because then you're not getting out of your groove doing it question by question. Instead, do it page by page. That way when you flip the page, you're like bubbling. Bring a couple pencils, one of them or two of them that are sharpened for your actual workbook, and then right before the test, like dull one of them down so it's pretty flat, and then you can bubble and like literally like and it's done. Instead of like when your pencil's sharpened, you have to like really draw that circle, you know? Almost a dull pencil is better than a sharpened one for the Scantron. That's what I did on my last one, and it worked out pretty well. It was a lot faster. That way you can focus more on the test instead of your actual Scantron. Now, this is kind of a basic one, but obviously if you don't know the answer, or if you're like didn't finish in time, when they say like 5 minutes, I would go ahead and bubble like B or C, those are the most common ones, like lightly for the rest of them, and then that way you don't run out of time without answering questions. So then you at least have answers there, and then as you keep working, you can erase them and change them. I always go with C. I don't know, I used to be a B person, but now C's that's just my letter. So pick a letter of the day and go with that. It's pretty like much my like general tips, I guess you could say. That's pretty much everything I've learned. If you don't get the score you want, you can always take it again. You can take it pretty much unlimited amount of times, however many you want to take it. I would recommend taking the writing at least once, because some colleges still do require it, but I would just say like don't worry too much about it. They normally say a week to 8 weeks. 8 weeks is only if you have like issues in your testing room like I did with that kid cheating. But the one that I took the other day, I got mine back in like a week and a half. But I would just check back every once in a while after you take your test. And the website is a little bit confusing, but you just click like view scores, and then you type in your password, and then it will show them to you. There's a whole bunch of links about understanding your scores if you don't understand what is on there, what all the numbers mean, but you can see like your national ranking, and then you can also order like a score report thing, which will send you all of the questions that you had and like what you chose, and then like the correct answers. So that's a great studying tool if you want to get that as well. You can also get like tons of tutors. I know lots of schools have like prep classes. I know mine has ACT and SAT, but I would just say like don't worry about it if you don't get as high of a score as you want. Think about it, it's only one factor. When you're getting into college, they still look at all your like community service, but like your teacher recs, your GPA, like a lot of other things. So this really isn't like a huge, I mean, it's a part of it, but I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't say that you're not gonna get into college if you don't get the score that you want. Do aim as high as you can, and that way you'll probably do better on the test. And I would just say like good luck, go in there and do what you should do. Yeah, so if you guys know anything else, comment it down below. Hopefully this helped all of you who have taken it, are taking it, or are going to take it. And yeah, I will see you guys next week. Bye.